Hello, good afternoon. This is the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 in Accra, Love 99.5 in Kumasi, affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, including Bedouin FM Bumprugu, Sun City Radio Keta, Volta Premier Ho, ATL FM Cape Coast, Radio Max Takrady, and Ridge 104.9 FM Tamale. We are live on Facebook live stream and the My Joy Online interactive app. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol, always a delightful experience, and Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. Coming up, experts and industry players predict low domestic revenue mobilization as they expect investment in securities to decline following what they describe as a controversial domestic debt exchange program.
We need the investment. We need people to mobilize resources. That is true. But till we offer leadership with honesty and accountability, we will have challenges. And I'm challenging everybody who finds himself in leadership.
We can't bring back any public confidence when the regulators are sitting down and they don't want to act.
Government, meanwhile, reiterates its pledge to set up support fund to assist financial institutions affected by the program as it expresses confidence its ongoing talks with China and the Paris Club will be successful.
It is important to indicate that government has initiated some steps to set up our 1.5 billion Ghana Financial Stability Fund to provide liquidity and solvency support.
We'll tell you more also in this package. Ghana National Fire Service uncomfortable with the reopening of the Kjetia Market complex following the intervention of the Vice President. They insist investigation into the cause of the fire is yet to be concluded.
I wouldn't say that we are comfortable, but we can manage with what we have been able to establish.
We've got details as traders are joyful as they reopen for business, and election outcome is about those who cast the vote, not those who count or collate the results. President Akufo-Addo declares as he urges the Electoral Commission to be transparent and neutral in the conduct of elections.
It must be pointed out that the count, the collation, the declaration of results cannot and should not be more important than the sacred God-given right of a citizen casting his or her ballot.
The president also calls for sensitivity over demands for the review and in some cases overthrow of the 1992 constitution.
I believe the NCC continues to be relevant in helping establish a culture of awareness in our country, especially at this time when irresponsible elements within the body politic are calling for the overthrow of the constitutional order.
And in sports,
we'll tell you everything about the Black Stars as the team is set to arrive in Kumasi in less than an hour ahead of the Angola encounter.
And in today's Living Standard series, we tell you how kidney patients are having sleepless nights over the cost of dialysis in these hard times.
A session like I'm doing today is 380 cedis. And that's the cheapest you can get in the private sector. We can pay as high as 550. And you need this at least 2 or 3 times in a week.
These and more here on the Midday News with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Thanks for choosing us. This is Joy News, independent, fearless and credible. It's a pleasure to have you here. The details now. Experts and industry players are predicting low domestic revenue mobilization as they expect investment in securities to decline following what they say has been a controversial domestic debt exchange program. This program and government's subsequent defaults on its obligations, they say, has eroded confidence in the investment space. Non-executive director at Databank M Fund, Dr. Dan Sedo, says government must work to restore confidence in the sector. He's been speaking at the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting.
We need the investment. We need people to mobilize resources. That is true. But till we offer leadership with honesty and accountability, we will have challenges. And I'm challenging everybody who finds himself in leadership. Why are we worried about investment? People would invest. People are looking for it. Now, the banks are doing something that is quite interesting. Their own equity holding is very small. The chunk of the money they use is depositors' money.
Sure.
The chunk of the money they put in government bonds is depositors' money. But how much of that do they share with the depositor? Depositor doesn't benefit from the risk they assume. They get all the rewards. And today the banks are in difficulty and they're still looking for depositors' money. And I'm saying till we start treating people well, my essence is on trust. Trust comes from building relationships. So till we start building relationship with investors and depositors, we would all go in circles and run into difficulty.
Dr. Dan Sedo is non-executive director at Databank M Fund. Taking his turn during the program, Professor of Economics Abu Texan shared in Dr. Sedo's concerns.
Imagine if most people who held the domestic bonds were domestic residents. We would not have had the sharp depreciation that took place over the last year because most of the non-residents were taking their investment out. That would have stabilized our currency a bit. So it would have had its impact on inflation and all of that. Then also the fact that, like Reverend said, you've had an accident before doesn't mean you don't have to go out. I have confidence in the fact that we shouldn't expect any of this to happen anytime soon if you're able to clean up this mess well. I must admit that the whole DDE program has really dented the confidence of most uninformed investors.
Professor of Economics at the University of Ghana, Abu Texan there. While the Pensioner Bondholders Forum is blaming regulators for the current state of affairs, Dr. Edu Anani Entry is convener.
When this DDEP issue came, I did not see any regulator performing an investor protection role. The government is an issuer of securities, and people who are holding government securities must be protected. The fact that government securities will not go through regulations for approval before issuance does not mean people who are holding that document should not be protected. We can't bring back any public confidence when the regulators are sitting down and they don't want to act.
On the issue of protecting investors, the Securities and Exchange Commission says it's been engaging government on the matter. Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete is Director General.
My comment or response is that investor protection comes in different forms. Okay, so for instance, because sometimes people tend to look at just one aspect, and it's not everything that you may even get out in the public domain. Okay, so for instance, if the regulator is advising maybe the sector ministry, it may not be something that may come out. But apart from that, if you take licensing, it's one of the ways you protect to make sure that those who come into the space to operate are fit and proper. It's a way by which you do that protection. You can talk about the information, making information accessible.
You had Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete, he's Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. He and the earlier speakers were speaking at the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting on the theme Domestic Debt Exchange Lessons and Implications for How You Invest. Meanwhile, Board Chairman of UBA Ghana, Kjetia Market, says the Domestic Debt Exchange Program will not lead to a collapse of banks in Ghana. His comment comes in the wake of some banking consultants warning some financial institutions are on the verge of insolvency. Mr. Awochi has been speaking on the hard truth with Kjetia Market.
Our exposure to some of these instruments is relatively small compared to some of the major banks. It certainly didn't make us bankrupt. It reduced our profitability. The fact of the matter is a lot of other banks were affected. The industry as a whole has been hugely affected. And I think what we worry about is more about, does that, create contagion?
Board Chairman of UBA Ghana speaking to Kjetia Market on the hard truth. You can catch that full interview at 6 p.m. later today on the Joy News channel. Government, meanwhile, says a fund will be shortly set up to assist struggling institutions on the quest to get an IMF program. It says the finance minister's talks with China and the Paris Club will be successful. Abnor Asari is Deputy Finance Minister.
It is important to indicate that government has initiated some steps to set up our 1.5 billion Ghana Financial Stability Fund to provide liquidity and solvency support to adversely affected financial institutions that participated fully in the domestic exchange program. On the external debt, we have formally requested from our bilateral creditors a debt treatment under the G20 common framework for debt treatments beyond the common framework that we have. And we've had subsequent engagements with them. As I speak with you now, the minister is on his way to China, and we believe that there's going to be some fruitful discussions which will result in positive outcomes for the external debt as well. So the IMF program reinforces our social protection as a priority of government.
Deputy Finance Minister Abena Osei-Asare there. Let's head to Parliament now, because 3 key revenue measures estimated to potentially rake in some 4 billion cedis annually is yet to be considered by the House this week. The bills form part of prior actions necessary for the IMF program. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kjetia Market joins us with more. Hello, Kjetia. Do you get the sense that the minority side of the House will support government's bid to pass these bills as soon as possible?
No such agreement is on the table as we speak. We know that only a few days back, the NDC had asked all its MPs to keep attending the House because of deals like this. We understand there have been some horse trading behind the scenes for some time now to try and see if the minority can get something, particularly regarding the Electoral Commission and its constitutional instrument, to try and see if they can work on some form of an agreement. As of now, we do not know that, and Parliament is now deciding that Thursday will be the day to deal with that. We know that the majority side are doing all they can to at least bring in all their members into Parliament on Thursday, because these votes are usually voice votes and normally go to head count. The majority side have all their numbers. They will not even need the cooperation of the minority to do so. And so what we understand now is that the chief whips on the majority side are just trying to get every one of the majority MPs to be in Parliament on Thursday to be able to see through these financial bills.
Kweku, what else is happening in the House?
So we were expecting the Interior Minister to answer some questions on security-related matters, where he had just informed the Parliament through the Speaker of Parliament that he had been caught up in the Northern region and was not going to be able to do so. But the Speaker of Parliament has also been eulogizing the former MP for Tafu Pankrono, whose death was announced yesterday. He said this was a man who took his state duties very seriously.
He was a very illustrious member, very effective, very well respected, a very true gentleman. He told the former member of Parliament, Honorable Dr. Osei Akutu, who was not just a member of Parliament, but was also appointed a Deputy Minister of Finance and
apologies on the truncation of the sound, but you heard Speaker of Parliament Alban Babin eulogizing the late former MP for Tafu Pankrono, Dr. Anthony Osei Akutu. Let's do some other stories now. Chronic kidney patient Deborah Naughty is among many losing sleep over cost of treatment. With no job and little support from family and friends, spending at least 800 cedis weekly on dialysis is continuously becoming a nightmare in a harsh economy. Mamiesi Nyamicha Thompson caught up with her, and here's her report.
Deborah is at the end stage of chronic kidney disease. This means her kidneys have lost their function, making the removal of waste and extra water from her blood difficult. The dialysis machine now serves as her kidneys. To manage her condition and preserve her life longer, she's now restricted in the quantity of food and liquid she takes. According to her, the process is not only draining, but can be painful as well.
So whatever fluid we take throughout the days, it stays in our body till we come on the machine and the machine draws it out. So sometimes our muscles react to it. It gives us some spasms and cramps, which are very, very extremely painful. It's like your tissues are tearing apart.
She eventually lost a job and source of income because she couldn't work effectively. She has also lost her marriage and has very little support. Almost every week, she scrounges at least 800 cedis for her treatment.
A session like I'm doing today is 380 cedis. And that's the cheapest you can get. Kolibu is the cheapest so far. In case there are issues and we have to visit the private sector, we can pay as high as 550 for one session. And you need this at least 2 or 3 times in a week. So that piles up. And aside even the dialysis cost, we have our injections that we take to boost up our blood. Extremely expensive, 200 cedis.
You heard the latest on our Living Standard series produced by Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson. The Ghana National Fire Service has expressed reservation about the reopening of the Kumasi Kjetia Market complex following the intervention of Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The service says it's yet to complete investigation into the cause of fire that destroyed over 30 shops. In fact, the local government ministry had given authorities 1 week to complete a probe into the inferno, but the Vice President, during a visit to the facility yesterday, announced the reopening of the market today. Deputy National Communications Director of the Ghana National Fire Service, DO3 Desmond Aka, indicates there's more work to be done and they would have preferred the market closed.
I wouldn't say that we are comfortable, but we can manage with what we have been able to establish as of now. The good news is that the affected portion will not be open. It's just that the other remaining parts of the market that will be open to the traders. We are still in talks with the management to get the other requirements. With respect to the detection system, the firefighting system, working so that in the event of any foreseeable fire incident, it will be able to be deployed to function perfectly.
DO3 Desmond Aka is Deputy National Communications Director of the Ghana National Fire Service. Some few minutes ago, the doors to the market complex were open to allow traders access. Let's go live to the place. Love FM's Nana Boache Yadom is there for us. Nana Yao, I can imagine, do you still have the bustle of the Kjetia Market as we speak? Hello, Nana Boache.
Hello.
Hello, Nana. If you can hear me, I'm asking what the Kumasi Kjetia Market is like as we speak.
So right now, traders have started making sales. Trading today, the market was open today for traders to begin their work. So the only challenge they are having right now is that those affected places, those lanes, the lane that the fire gutted, there are other shops over there that did not get affected by the outbreak. But those shops will be closed down for reconstruction. Traders over there are raising concerns. Their problem is that their shop did not get affected by the fire. So they do not see why the shops should be closed down for reconstruction. That is what they are raising, the concerns they are raising right now. So they are pleading with management to hold on with that directive. But management is also saying that they cannot hold on because those people who are affected by the outbreak must also come to work. So they have to do everything on time. So therefore, the shops on the lane, either affected or not affected, will be closed down. The situation right now is quite critical because those shop owners are raising so much concern and they do not want to leave their place. Management are also there, starting all of them to move, and they are still inside the market, inside their shops. They do not want to move because they are saying that their shops did not get affected by the outbreak. Hence, they do not see any reason why their shops should be closed. So right now, traders are making sales, but the only major concern being raised is that these people who did not get affected by the outbreak say they do not see why their shops should be closed for reconstruction.
Thanks, Nana Boache. That's Love FM's Nana Boache Yadom. He's at the Kumasi Kjetia Market for us. You stay there while in monitor events. We'll update you in subsequent bulletins. To some politics now. The 2024 general elections is just 21 months away and the Electoral Commission has commenced processes to ensure credible polls. The body plans to lay a constitutional instrument to regulate the continuous registration of voters onto the register, but President Akufo-Addo is more interested in protecting the sanctity of votes, swearing in 3 new members of the commission. President Akufo-Addo said under no circumstance should elections be decided by the counting and collation of results rather than the casting of votes.
It is no secret that I've spent most of my adult life fighting for the establishment of democracy and human rights in this country. And I've always fought for and advocated for a credible electoral process in Ghana. In emphasizing the importance and credibility of elections, it must be pointed out that the count, the collation, the declaration of results cannot and should not be more important than the sacred God-given right of a citizen casting his or her ballot. I have said it before and I will repeat it. Elections are about those who cast the vote, not those who count, not those who supervise, not those who transmit, and not those who declare. The heart of the democratic process is giving effect to the choices made by those who cast the vote.
In a related development, the president says he's not in favor of calls for the revision or, in some cases, the abolition of the 1992 constitution. Swearing in the governing board of the National Commission on Civic Education, the president said the calls are misplaced.
Despite concerns raised in some quarters about the effectiveness of the NCC in the discharge of its functions, with some going so far as advocating for abolition, I am of a different opinion. I believe the NCC continues to be relevant and still has an important role to play in helping establish a culture of awareness in our country, especially at this time when irresponsible elements within the body politic are calling for the overthrow of the constitutional order. Further, the NCC needs also to be sensitive to the demands expressed in several quarters for amendments, wholesale or limited, to the Fourth Republican Constitution, without prejudging the outcome of the national debate on this all-important matter.
President Akufo-Addo will bring you some more politics, but just gone by, experts and industry players predict low domestic revenue mobilization as they expect investment in securities to decline following what they describe as a controversial domestic debt exchange program. Still to come, NPP flag bearer hopeful Alan Tremartin says he remains focused on his ambition despite sustained campaigns against him by elements in the party.
All those who will be contesting to lead the party are worthy sons of our party. And so the last thing I would do is to go out and destroy any of my colleagues.
I bet your mirror is tired of seeing your talent. And your bathroom is tired of hearing that beautiful voice. Well, this is your time to shine, right from wherever you are. Go on and change your world with Ghana's best data bundles. Simply dial *111# for huge data for less. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
Thank you so much for staying on the Midday News. It's now time for sports. Mubarak is here.
Thank you very much, Bernice. Now, the Black Stars are expected to arrive in Kumasi by 1 p.m. this afternoon to intensify preparations for the big encounter against Angola this coming Thursday. My colleague with Love FM in Kumasi, Delali Atiase, has more.
It is believed that Chris Hughton will be arriving in Kumasi with a full complement of his squad. Coach Chris Hughton is expected to have a full-scale training session with the team later this afternoon at 4 p.m. at the Baba Yara Stadium. Then on Wednesday, the Black Stars will have their second training session at the Baba Yara Stadium, but that will be after the Angolan counterparts have trained at the same venue at 4 p.m. The new Ghana coach is, however, expected to speak to the press on Wednesday before the team's last training session at the Baba Yara Stadium. Meanwhile, our sources indicate that the Angolans are expected in Ghana today and they will be training at the Pajo Stadium at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. It is, however, still not clear their exact time of arrival, but we hope to keep our listeners updated on any development. Kumasi is expectant, and the thousands of fans who will be at the stadium on Thursday will demand nothing short of a convincing victory for the Stars to make the second leg a mere formality.
That's your spot.
Thank you so much, Aruna Mubarak. Let's do some more politics now. And flag bearer hopeful of the governing New Patriotic Party, Alan Tremartin, says he remains focused on his bid to lead the party despite a sustained campaign against him by elements within the NPP. Mr. Tremartin, who is currently touring the Upper West region, says he's refrained from responding to personal attacks because he's convinced only his programs and plans to move the country will win him the slot. He spoke on WA-based Home Radio.
Although we are going in looking for a flag bearer, you are looking for a flag bearer who can become president. Okay. So it's not just about who is popular in NPP, okay, or who NPP delegates would like to vote for. They have to vote for someone who, when elected as their flag bearer, will be able to attract votes beyond NPP. Okay. So it is about who you can sell to the people of Ghana, and not just who you can sell to NPP. Okay. And I always keep on repeating this. In all humility, if Alan Chematin becomes the flag bearer of MPP, I'm confident that we will retain power.
You heard the NPP presidential hopeful Alan Tremontin. Let's stay a little longer in politics because the opposition National Democratic Congress has started receiving presidential nomination forms from hopefuls. My colleague James Aveji just returned from its headquarters. James, who has filed today?
So this morning, Ernest Kweku Kobia was the one who started the whole filing of nominations for the NDC. He wasn't there himself, but his campaign team was there to represent him and file on his behalf.
He's somebody who is a manager. In fact, I'm assuring you that if Ernest Kweku Kobia becomes president of this nation, he will use only 21 ministers to operate. He himself, I am telling you, that kind of using a lot of money to buy fuel for ministers, convoy, he will not have that. He will only travel with 3 cars wherever he's going. And so he's such a lovely man, a young man, and that one alone should be something that should encourage you and I as young people. That
what are the main policies he's bringing on board, except for the fact that he's younger than the other candidates?
Okay, one, in fact, they say charity begins at home. So first of all, under the NDC, the youth that has followed this party from time immemorial, if you turn your camera now to any of the branch people that we are moving with, what they will tell you is that they have never gotten anything from the party. And it's true. Me have been a grassroots man and have witnessed this. But Mr. Ernest Kweku Kobia, his coming is just for the youth.
So you just heard the spokesperson for Ernest Kweku Kobia, Aliu Zomra. He led a team to file for him. In some few minutes to come, former President John Dramani Mahama will be filing. What we do not know is whether he will be there himself or a team will be representing him, but he will be filing in a few minutes to come. And then on Thursday, Dr. Kwabena Dufo is also expected to also file, including other aspirants of the party.
Thanks. That's my colleague James Aveji. Away from politics, a recent study by the Water Research Institute has revealed that turbidity remains at alarming levels in most of the major water bodies across the country. Experts are warning we may experience water shortage if nothing is done to reverse this trend. A couple of months ago, Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister George Mirikuduka announced that some river bodies destroyed by illegal mining activities were beginning to regain their natural status. However, speaking at a United Nations Water Conference press briefing, Deputy Director of Water Research Institute at CSIR, Dr. Anthony Kakari, said the turbidity levels remain high in Ankobra, Pra, Ofin, and other major water bodies.
Ghana is water stressed, and the proportion of people living in water scarcity and stress areas is growing. If you saw the projection to 2030, about 40 and over people are going to live in water scarce area, and this is serious. Then with the increase in the human activities around our rivers, especially the Galamsey, because it's a dangerous thing that is killing us. Now water sources are becoming polluted and cannot be used for drinking and other purposes.
Dr. Anthony Kakari is Deputy Director of the Water Research Institute at the CSIR. And before we go, when you think about waterfalls, which names come to mind? Perhaps Buli, Tagbo, Boti, or Kintampo Falls, right? But have you ever heard of Walla Falls in the Bonfubri Wildlife Sanctuary in the Ashanti region? If you've ever visited the tourist sites, then good for you. In today's Gunuman series, Kjetia Market took a nature walk and crossed the Pami River to witness the stunning cascading water called Walla.
Today, we have made the 80-kilometer journey from Kumasi to explore this rather large sanctuary spanning about 53 square kilometers. It's been here since 1975 and it's under the daily management of the Forestry Commission and their ever-present armed forest rangers, who told us that before coming to the sanctuary, visitors are required to first go to the district office in Kumewu to buy tickets. If I'm honest, the stillness of this hot afternoon and the total absence of any trace of animal life whatsoever makes the mental image of this vast field, filled to bursting with buffalo, even more enthralling.
So what is the name of this river?
It's Pami. Yeah, Pami.
Ah. Wow, it's beautiful. And is it connected to the waterfall?
Yes, please. From here to waterfalls, it's just a small distance.
Oh, so it's now going to the waterfalls. Wonderful. Coming. So we are going to cross?
Yeah, we can cross it.
Okay. You go first. Let me see how you do it.
Yes, a small. Come slowly.
The rock formations are really nice, eh? I mean, if not for anything at all, even before you see the waterfall, you would have taken 100 beautiful nature wildlife selfies, you know, to make your social media pop and show that also you're a tourist.
Finally, here it is in all its glory.
Whoa. That is beautiful.
Yeah. Now you can get close.
I can go closer.
You can go closer.
Think nature. Think camping. Think unspoiled beauty. Think the road less traveled. Think untinctured idyllic scenes of nature. Think road trip with an epic picnic at the end of your journey. Think Bomfubri Wildlife Sanctuary. In fact, don't just think it, explore it, and thank me later.
On that very beautiful note, we end this edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Our top story, experts and industry players predict low domestic revenue mobilization as they expect investment in securities to decline following what they describe as a controversial domestic debt exchange program. Meanwhile, government reiterates its pledge to set up a support fund to assist financial institutions affected by the program as it expresses confidence its ongoing talks with China and the Paris Club will be successful. There's more news on myjoyonline.com, including US urges Xi Jinping to press Putin over war crimes in Ukraine. Thanks for your company once again. Kindly stay with us. Up next is Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil.